Welcome to PPLS Perspectives, a podcast bringing students and academics together to explore the research carried out by the University of Edinburgh School of Philosophy, Psychology and Language Sciences and the impact this work has on society.
Hello and welcome to PPLS Perspectives podcast, brought to you from the University of Edinburgh. This is from the School of Philosophy, Psychology and Language Sciences, and a series of interviews which aims to introduce the work done by some of the key researchers in the school, to explain the work that they're doing and to bring it to a wider audience. My name is Jenny Jones. I've just completed a Master's in Developmental Linguistics here at Edinburgh, and I was fortunate enough to have Professor Antonella Sorace as my supervisor for my dissertation, and we're very happy to welcome her here today for this interview.
Thank you. Thank you.
Professor Sorace is Professor of Developmental Linguistics at the University of Edinburgh, where she's been for a number of years, and is also Honorary Professor at University College London. In addition, she's also a Fellow of the British Academy, Fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh, and a Fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, among other things. She's held many research appointments and visiting professorships in other places around the world, including Max Planck Institute for Psycholinguistics and Johns Hopkins University, among other places. She is very well known as the world-leading authority on bilingualism, which she'll explain more about for us in this interview. And she is also very committed to sharing and disseminating her research findings about bilingualism beyond academia. And she was awarded a Beltane Fellowship for Public Engagement. One of the main organisations she's known for is Bilingualism Matters, which is an organisation she established, which has branches all over the world, including one in Edinburgh. So good morning and welcome. I would like to start this show with an elevator pitch. We'll be asking 5 questions, and starting with this elevator pitch question, which is a chance for you to describe briefly, sum up the main areas of your research in just a couple of minutes, like the time it would take for an elevator ride.
Thank you very much, Jenny. I'm delighted to be here, and thanks for the nice introduction. So my main area of research is language learning and bilingualism or multilingualism, by which I mean more than one language, over the lifespan, so in young children, older children, young adults, and older adults. So I'm really interested in knowing how multiple languages are learned at different ages, what the main factors are at different ages, but also how far one can go, depending on what age you start, and what the effects or consequences are of having more than one language. So by training, I'm an experimental linguist specialized in syntax, but I've always been very keen to do research across different disciplines, across different domains, to explore how different factors interact with each other. And for something like multilingualism, it's a very complex phenomenon. None of us is an expert on all aspects of bilingualism or multilingualism. So we really need to get out of the narrow boundaries of our disciplines and work in collaboration with other colleagues, people specialized in different areas, so that we can learn from each other and understand, have a better understanding of what we are studying. Over the years, my research has opened up some new perspectives, if you want, both on the study of language in general and on multilingualism. For example, the study of gradients in language from a theoretical and from a methodological point of view. That started from multilingualism, but then it was expanded to language in general. But also, for example, the relationship between changes in the native language in people who learn another language, so-called attrition, and adult second language acquisition. So convergences between the two, what does it mean? I'm also interested in communicating research on multilingualism to the general public, as Jenny said, and that's why I founded the Public Engagement Center, Bilingualism Matters, in 2008, but I'll be saying more about this later.
That was actually the reason that I came to know about your work was through Bilingualism Matters, because I, as a parent of multilingual children, I was looking for guidance and information about something which I felt was quite patchy and difficult to get any kind of reliable information about. So that was how I found out about Bilingualism Matters. Did this stem from what inspired you to carry out your research in this area?
Yes, well, there are several sources of inspiration or starting points. So on the one hand, my own learning of English, which I started at age 11, but also I learned French and German at the university, so I studied them there. So I'm a second language learner myself. And on the other hand, my experience of growing up with a minority language in the background, because my mother was from Sardinia, and she spoke Sardinian, which is a minority language, but she never spoke it to me because she didn't think it was useful. But she spoke it with other people, with other relatives, and so I can understand it. I heard often, I heard it often enough that I can understand everything, but I can't speak it. So that's another side of my experience. And then finally, my experience as the mother of bilingual children. I raised my sons with Italian and English, and that was obviously a very inspiring ground, both for research and for my more recent decision to get involved in public engagement through Bilingualism Matters. Yeah,
so Carlos is very famous, isn't he? The subject of your your observations and research. And it can be quite a loss when parents mistakenly think that they shouldn't speak in a language to their children. It's a difficult thing to know what to do sometimes, so this kind of information is very, very helpful.
Well, yes, and people have to make decisions all the time, about their children, about their students, about their policies, about their practices, about their patients. Yeah. And very often they don't do that. They don't make decisions based on reliable information. But we'll come back to this.
Yeah. Can you take us through how you conducted your research?
Well, okay, how am I going to explain this? My main aim is to collect reliable data on language learning, bilingualism, multilingualism, in the context of hypotheses, well-formulated hypotheses and predictions. I mean, that's my experimental work. So we do need statistically reliable experimental data that can be obviously generalized. But I also think that it's very important that we do in-depth qualitative studies that actually allow us to explore how different variables interact in individual cases, so we can better explore individual differences, and that can provide the basis for widening the scope of research with more insightful hypotheses and predictions. So both statistically reliable experimental research, but also qualitative research, they are both very important.
This is this interdisciplinary kind of approach as well that you mentioned at the beginning. So what were some of the challenges when conducting this research?
Well, I'm going to mention just a few. There are many challenges and many joys as well. It's not just challenges, it's also a lot of satisfaction. So interdisciplinarity is a very nice word and very popular, but it's not easy to implement in a productive way, because when you have data coming from different fields, often collected with different methodologies and so on, you have to be able to interpret them. You have to be able to put them together in a reasonable way. And the other challenge is, as I said, linking various subfields, which is important because, as I said before, we really need to join different kinds of expertise in order to understand multilingualism at different ages. First language acquisition, second language acquisition, first language attrition, these are academically, different fields. But I think we have to get out of our, academic boundaries and establish connections. So just to give you an example, two subfields that haven't been connected so far. One is the attrition effects, the changes in the native language of first-generation migrants who move to another place. I'm a case in point. I'm a migrant. I'm Italian. My Italian has changed in very specific ways. And the relationship between those effects in first-generation speakers and second-generation children who learn the minority language as a heritage language. So these links between parental attrition effects and learning of the minority language in second-generation speakers haven't really been explored, and I think we should.
And that's definitely something that is going to increase because migration and people moving around the globe is only going to rise. So we're going to see more linguistic diversity, more heritage speakers, and more kind of variation language as we move more.
Absolutely, and we need to understand that variation, which is not random. It's very specific, it's selective, it's very interesting. But we need to, as I said, get out of our narrow boundaries of particular fields and join forces.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice analogy in a way, because people moving and interacting and through language also, the study needs to do the same.
And that's something else I wanted to say, and the big challenge for all of us is really getting beyond the monolingual point of reference, which has been the reference point not only for research on multilingualism, but also for research in linguistics in general, partly because most research on linguistics and other fields as well has been done in monolingual wealthy countries, many of which speak English as the main language. So for many years, and still, in bilingualism, the study of bilingualism, multilingualism, we compare bilinguals with monolinguals. And I think we should really stop doing that, partly because we know that the monolingual, the real monolingual, is a bit of an abstraction. It doesn't really exist. We know that, the native language changes and, so it's sensitive to experiences and so on. So we should really stop using the monolingual point of reference. We should consider bilingualism as a continuum of different kinds of experiences, different kinds of bilingualism, rather than, you're either bilingual or not.
Yeah. In fact, the idea of the bilingual it used to be this kind of rarefied species of a strange person. Where are these real bilinguals? There weren't very many because the perfect balance or something doesn't really exist. So could you tell me something about the impact of this research and the wider public engagement work that you're doing to bring this to society more widely?
So, as I said before, I founded Bilingualism Matters in 2008, mostly as a researcher, obviously, but as a mother of bilingual children, because I became very aware of how little people know and how many prejudices and how many misconceptions there are about multilingualism. So I decided that, those of us who work in this field have a duty, in a sense, to make research available to people who have to make decisions, as I said before, about, children, students, patients, and so on. So we can build bridges between research and society. So when I started, it was originally a local service for parents and teachers in Edinburgh. And then we started attracting attention from other sectors, government, for example, speech and language therapists, and so on. So we started expanding to other sectors, working with people in other sectors, and then we started expanding internationally. And we started having branches in different countries. So Bilingualism Matters became a public engagement center for excellence in 2014. Then it spun out as a non-profit organization in 2021. We now have a global network, an international network of more than 30 branches in 4 continents, including a branch, as you said, at the University of Edinburgh. And that includes not only academics, but also a very wide, lively community of practitioners. Because we want to work together and build bridges between research and society. We train students, we train staff members on how to communicate their research in a clear way to the general public, and how to adapt their communication to different audiences. And this is a very useful skill to have for all academics, because we are used to speaking our jargon at academic conferences. But when we have to speak to non-academics, we have to simplify, we have to extract the main messages. And this is a very useful skill to have, even outside academia. And Bilingualism Matters has an annual research symposium, which has been growing in visibility over the last few years, and maybe you will say something more about this.
Sure, thank you. Yes, just to explain, the conference, the symposium is taking place in Edinburgh on the 24th and 25th of March, 2025. And for listeners of the podcast, there'll be a link on the website and on the PPLS Perspectives social media, where you can find a link for a discount to the conference if you're interested. So, thank you very much, Antonella, for coming and talking to us. And thank you for listening to this episode. We are going to be back next month with another episode. And remember to like or subscribe or comment on the platform, whichever platform you're listening on, if it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Media Hopper or YouTube. And there's also, remember, there's a full range of episodes available on the website for the previous season and also this one. So do go and have a look and dive in there, because it's some really good interviews there. One with Kenny Smith on language evolution, for example, and the last month's one about the philosophy of time travel. So thank you very much, and that's all for now. Goodbye.